Okay, now let's table down here.
Here you can offer the extract from later one day, right? What's her name? Do you know what this is? Yeah.
We don't know, no. A lot of food.
Is that okay? Can I take one picture?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like you to one picture. Oh, you see, yes.
Please. Come forward. Yeah, come forward. Yeah. Right there, okay?
This one 70. Yeah, 70. Cannot because they don't include. Oh. Okay. Napkin, focus bante. Want some bante? No. Okay.
Giờ selfie lên chết.
Excuse me, one thing. There's also food. Excuse me. Can we make this room all the bunkers to go on this way and come back?
Are we gonna cut the cake? That's okay. I'll wait for
We'll get a piece of cake.
Oh, you can.
You can see this in the watch.
I'm gonna cut it.
We're kind of routing people.
You switch. I switch with you. You serve one dish. Hold on. Let me cut first. We're gonna cut it. So put it in this.
प्रतिभा डिजाइन कब को Is there plates over there? Can somebody give me paper plates? Right, we're gonna put it on the plate. Yeah, for all the months. Is there plates over there or no? No? Oh, they do it?
Yeah.
Okay, I want a pink food and this too.
And they pass by you.
Okay. Oh yeah. Like rice. You know this. It's sticky rice. Sticky rice. Yeah, sticky rice. Sticky rice.
We're going to put in the plate for all the people. You were here last time, right? Yeah, you remember me? Yeah, she's right there with my husband. Thank you. Make sure you try my cake, okay? I made this. Yeah, I made this. This is I even hold it, but yeah. Oh, you want yeah, that. Me too.
Meeting in person at the Vihara and discussing for several hours over the phone. To avoid the hustle and bustle of the Vihara, Matthew would book 2 rooms at hotel in the woods where they could discuss, meditate, and rest. Bhanteji shared his desire to build a meditation center with Matt, who liked the idea and decided to support him in every way. For that, of course, they needed 3 necessary components of place, people, and money, and they had none of these. On Matthew's insistence, they started looking for land. They wanted it to be in a quiet setting, away from the city, preferably in the woods. So they drove around, looking for potential locations. They drove up and down the Potomac River and in the surrounding counties for properties between 10 and 100 acres, but could not find anything suitable. Finally, they noticed a set of buildings facing the Potomac River that was 189 acres. That seemed ideal for a meditation center. It belonged to the Clifton Book Company, book distributors who stocked and distributed books. A couple owned the business but could not pay the taxes, so they put it on sale for $1.5 million. Those buildings were to stock and distribute books. As they were the book distributors, the owner and his wife had a child and could not manage the business. So eventually they decided to sell the property. They put it out for sale for $1.5 million. Matthew was a smart negotiator and brought it down to $700,000 and immediately decided to deposit $1,000 as earnest money to pay the balance in 3 months. Bhanteji thought that was crazy and unrealistic, but Matthew was upbeat and encouraged Bhanteji to solicit funds from the membership that had grown to about 2,000 by then. So 1980 they traveled to NY area for funds. Their first stop would be the NY Buddhist Center, parked their car, and in to meet the people there. And 15 minutes later, when they walked out, Matthew's brand new car was broken in and radio stolen. They fixed the windshield and continued their mission, visited various places on the way to St. John's Memorial University for Bhanteji's talk. So they used this trip to visit people around St. John's Memorial University. That talk went well, and they continued doing that to save honorariums for use later. They decided to visit Sri Lankan families. It was cold and dark, but they persisted. They were strangers. When they knocked at the door, but when the residents saw Bhanteji, they welcomed the 2 in their homes. Some would ask where they planned to spend the night, and of course they slept in the car to save hotel expenses. Some people would offer to book a hotel for them for the night. Most of the folks would patiently listen to their story, but rarely offer any funds. They knew Bhanteji as they would get his newsletter, but would just take his address and offer to support later. That was the story of their expeditions from 1980 through 1982. They realized that they had traveled 5,000 miles and spent $5,000 and collected $5,000. They broke even, but they still has $18,000 in various donations, honorariums, and funds. They had just broken even. So they in 1982 and then deposited this money in the Bhavana Society's name and officially and legally registered that name as the Bhavana Society. Bhanteji decided to find a smaller piece of land between 10 and 15 acres somewhere in West Virginia, which would be more of a quiet forest setting, and because the land in West Virginia was cheaper those days. So one day in 1984, Matt called a realtor and asked him to meet him at a restaurant called Fern Restaurant on Route 50 in the West Virginia area. That is now called Family Restaurant. That realtor was not there, but someone else who was looking to sell some property offered to show Matt a piece of land. It was 13 acres of land and wanted $18,000 for it. They had no credit, no endowment, no benefactors, and no big bank account. He just wanted $8,000 down payment and the $150 a month until the balance was paid off. So they agreed and got the land in 1984. And to cap it off, Bhanteji got his doctorate degree from American University and was appointed president of the DC Vihara in that time. end of decades 5 and 6. 7 and 8 decades, 7 decades, this 7th decade broadly spans the time from 1987-1997, as most of the construction at the Bhavana site was done in this decade. It started earlier in the 6th decade as the land was purchased in 1984, but in the first few years the construction was slow and piecemeal. The work involved mainly clearing the land for roads and building sites. Luckily, a local builder cooperated and agreed to work on the construction in a graduated, incremental way. This worked fine for the Bhavana Society too, as money would come in incrementally from Bhante Ji's talks and honorariums, as he traveled all over America and the world to share the Dhamma and conduct retreats. Money would also come in from small donations from members and occasionally in larger amounts from benefactors. Most of the manual labor was done by Bhavana Society volunteers who would come into work on weekends when there was some construction to be done. The volunteers were office workers who knew very little about construction or the use of power tools, and their dedication and perseverance made things happen. But occasionally some work had to be redone to meet construction standards. Many volunteers were architects, engineers, and construction people who were willing to help. On one occasion, 60 volunteers showed up for a long weekend, and they stayed in tents or local motels and hotels. Women joined the group too and helped with various tasks, including the cooking. Matt Flickstein bought and donated 10 acres, and John Hitchens donated 2 acres to bring the size of Bhavana from 13 to 25 acres. A well was drilled that provided running water, and the local utility company brought in electricity through their overhead lines. Bhante Ragula, an American who had spent some time in India and Sri Lanka, came to visit Bhante Ji for 2 weeks and spent it in the primitive settings of Bhavana at that time. In that time, he completed an amazing amount of manual work single-handed, almost what 5 or 6 people would do. He returned a short time later to supervise the construction and stayed at Bhavana for almost 22 years, till 2010. According to Bhante Ji, he turned out to be the most energetic and dependable bhikkhu he had ever known. Right from the start, in those early days, Bhante Ji would have 1- and 2-day retreats in the open air under the trees. People would stay in tents and sleeping bags. It was almost like the days of the Buddha. In the Vulture Grove in North Bihar, India, after the property was purchased, the local neighbors were curious about so many brown-skinned people hanging out in the lily-white conservative area of this hill country of West Virginia. Some of the men were even dressed in strange-looking robes. One of the neighbors, Rush Lafayette, was very friendly and always helpful in every way. Most neighbors were helpful or neutral. One neighbor was downright antagonistic. And unfortunately, his property happened to abut the east boundary of Bhavana. Matt Flickson and Bhante Ji went over to meet him and possibly invite him to join a meditation. His cold and curt reply was, "You can do anything you want. I am a good Christian." He obviously felt threatened and did everything to show it. For instance, he tried to destroy the mailbox. It was shot at, duct taped, filled with dog excrement, and stolen. No fewer than 5 replacements had to be done because of his actions. When a post was dug with the title Dhamma Village, it got changed to Dam Village. Whenever retreats were held, which were in the open air at that time, they would harass the meditators by shouting obscenities. This continued for about 6 or 7 years and then moved away. Several years later, one of the sons who had joined the Navy and traveled to Buddhist countries came to visit Bhante Ji. He sincerely apologized for his family's behavior. This section has to do with ordinations. Besides the building constructions, a highlight of this decade was the solemn ordination ceremony. It started mainly as Matt Flickstein wanted it, so Bhante Ji let him be a monk for a short period. A sima had to be built, which in Pali language means a boundary for visiting monks and ordination candidates who sit around. One man came from Canada and a woman from Germany, Bhante Sona. and Sister Susinta, respectively, and a Mahayana monk from Japan. This is Bhante Dhamma, who is still with us. This is Bhikkhuni Susinta, who is now in Germany. This was in July 22nd, 1989, over